The Monerotopian Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
Oh, buddy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year,
man.
Let's see. Let me get me sharing on this screen. So, unfortunately, I think this price report might be a little bit anticlimactic. I got some Christmas toys, and I was putting them in my main PC, or not really PC, but computer, and my power supply went out. So that took me all of 2 days ago to figure out and replace. And then now my CPU is overheating because I'm pretty sure moving my case around got air bubbles in my little hybrid all-in-one cooler. So it's making like gurgling noises. So I'm on a borrowed laptop here. So hopefully
Your power supply makes some magic smoke.
No, it didn't do anything. It just like silently died. I was like, man, did I like short something on the motherboard? Has dust finally murdered my my case here? Yeah, but no, I finally did the pin test. Apparently you connect 2 pins together and it should start the fan, and it didn't do that. So that was a good indication that the power supply was gone. So anyways, what's up?
Unfortunate.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like I have to open my case and reconfigure things to connect this stuff, and you just know the chances of something going wrong when you have a steady state system. Like, you just never want to touch it. Like, you do servers, so like if it's working and it's complex, just like don't touch it. Like, handle it delicately. Like, maybe don't even restart it. Like, update it in place if you can. Like, that's
yeah,
just
my
seems to
server
be
is a pain in the ass to restart.
Yep.
I totally understand. Come on, guys, donate to Body. Get this man a new power supply for his computer.
No, I bought it. I actually found a store finally in Mexico that like sells this stuff. In Mexico,
cool.
everything is like shipped. You buy it and they ship it to you, and it's hard to find sometimes stores that have like specialty items.
I mean, to be honest, that's a lot of the ways things are going here too now. Like, I mean, most PC stuff you have to buy online now, unless you have a Micro Center near you.
Yeah,
we may or may not have a Micro Center nearby.
or a Fry's. Is Fry's still a thing?
No, they're out of business. They died.
Man, they were the best.
They're all going away.
Never heard of Fry's?
I don't think that was a New York thing. Micro Center we have.
Yes.
Lucky. I'm jealous.
Okay, so I think I'm sharing my screen now. Y'all tell me.
So, buddy, this
Hold it up, but there's nothing there.
Hell of a way to end the year, though, right? I feel like, with the delisting.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like, finally, thanks, guys. I'm not sure how much Binance matters anymore when it comes to Monero. I think we got the word out. I think most people got off of Binance. I think they're still used in like fixed float, Changely, and a bunch of these other like, they're not decentralized, but accountless exchanges. So maybe like the liquidity there is still kind of important for those kinds of trades. Definitely, it's going to be a liquidity hit, but man, I'll take the lower liquidity and see how we do on our own with price. So after we found out, after Howard Chu showed us that they were using Monero miners, and probably at a loss given how like inefficient those miners were, I now really question whether or not did they finally get enough Monero to cover their books. Did they spend some amount of time like basically covering those shorts? I think that's possible. I'm not sure that we should expect any massive price pumps, and if anything, remember the last time that the cabal tried to like do a planned delisting of Monero off Bittrex, even though there was like no volume on Bittrex. Remember, like, price, everything just like relatively tanked. Our price relatively tanked. The charts didn't make any sense. Don't be surprised if they delist Monero, and it's not confirmed. I don't think we've like heard an official word from Binance. They have been like delisting in countries here and there, but if like they totally delist Monero, don't be surprised if the cabal still finds a way to sell Monero and take the price. Like, don't be surprised if they saved up a little stash to try and like push the price in the direction of the narratives they want to create. So this might be like some short-term pain. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but like it might be. So just be prepared for that, guys. If we get that final delisting move, like the cabal loves to move price in the direction of the narratives that they're promulgating. So But overall, I mean, this is a good thing. Like, is holding your coin on Binance, is that really adoption? No. So I think ultimately this ends up being a good.
Definitely overall, it's what we've all been waiting for, right? Anybody who's been in Monero for the legitimate reasons knows that this was kind of the direction things were headed, and the way we want things to go. But there might be some growing pains that go along with it, right, as we transition.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll really have to get more liquidity onto the different dexes. Bisq already has pretty solid liquidity, although I haven't checked it out in a while. I need to just reinstall it. I just deleted it years ago because I'm like, well, I'm in Monero now. I don't need Bitcoin. Occasionally, I unfortunately still do need Bitcoin, but yeah,
But I
well,
will say, like things that come to mind, right? Like you said, like like there are instant exchanges that I think rely on Binance, but even I've been talking on the show how you can go down to Buenos Aires, right, and you can go into these cuevas, and you could exchange U.S. dollar bills for pesos. You could also exchange crypto for pesos. All those cuevas use Binance, is my understanding, right?
oh, interesting.
Like even that right there. Now, does that mean you can no longer swap your Monero into pesos down in Argentina? No, I guess you'd have to, use another, exchange your Monero into another crypto and then exchange it at a Cueva. But it's just like there is going to be added friction there in places where it's going to effectively be harder to on ramp and off ramp. I mean, that's obviously is gonna come with the delisting.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There was a guy, I can't remember his name on Twitter, but he was arguing that lower liquidity is a bad thing, and I tend to agree. Like I kind of debated with him a little bit that it's not always necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, like lower liquidity is going to make it, like you said, more friction to use Monero to get in and out of it because it's not really a popularly accepted currency even among cryptocurrencies. So it still requires us, unfortunately, to swap somewhat often. Looking into 2024, maybe there's an opportunity there with Malay and Argentina. I mean, I've said, hey, I've been thinking about moving down there ever since he got elected, but I really want to see him follow through. And so far, like what we've seen is follow through. We've seen him doing things that I've never seen a politician anywhere ever do or reported to have done in history. So this is pretty good. Like this is a good sign. I want to see it continue to follow through, but there might be an opportunity with the Cuevas and liquidity and crypto and just going down there and starting a business between dollars and crypto.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, we did. Actually, I had this guy on last night. His name is Nate. I don't know his last name. What is his name? Token Dynamics or something?
Yeah, Token Dynamics.
Token Dynamics. Maybe he's the guy you were talking about on Twitter. Because yeah, I had him on, and we obviously the whole show was basically about the Binance delisting. So we'll be posting a couple of days, and his overall take is initially there is going to be a lot more volatility. He's thinking after the delisting, because of the drop in liquidity, there'll be more volatility. He thinks there's going to be, like a drop in price, I guess a scare or whatever, but then ultimately he sees, Monero rising because of it, because of this theory that there's paper Monero that was being, issued on Binance, and that will no longer be the case. And once Binance is gone, all we really have in terms of centralized exchanges, major ones, is Kraken. And there is this thinking that Kraken, isn't participating in printing paper Monero because of who they are and the people that have, that are behind Kraken, Jesse Powell. I mean, obviously we don't know, but that's the thinking. I don't know, Buddy, what do you think of that overall assessment?
I would very much like to believe that Kraken is honest here. It was kind of weird the other night, or sorry, the other couple weeks ago when when they didn't really respond to us, and they well, I can't remember their exact phrasing on it, but it sounded like they were telling the truth, but in a way to avoid saying more of the truth. I think the lower liquidity, so definitely low liquidity implies the potential for heavy volatility. Really what we want is upside volatility. We want high buy side liquidity and low sell side liquidity. But who knows like what that's really going to look like. There's still going to be demand from darknets. There's a significant amount of infrastructure that's been built out over the past couple of years. I do think that, yeah, his assessment that a price drop really could be in the cards. I'm not super confident that I'm not sure whether or not Binance has covered for their fractional reserve. They might have, because of those Monero miners. If they have covered that, then we shouldn't expect like significant price pumps anywhere in the near future. But if they have to close all of that out and wind it down, then probably we should expect to see Monero pumping significantly. Maybe an initial crash where they'll try and like crash the price. They'll try and like make everything terrible, get the news out, whatever. Buy up as much Monero as they can so they can cover their books. Like that might be a strategy that they're going for. And in fact, if they're fractional reserved at all, unless they're 100% reserved now, probably that's going to be the play. That's probably what they're going to do. They're going to like put the news story out there, hit the price, and then try and scoop up some Monero. They'll be limited in how much they can do that in terms like, because if they want to really hit the price, they're going to have to coordinate somehow. Kraken is probably the least bad player out there. I hesitate to say that they're good, but I mean, I think they should be pretty good. Jesse Powell really has me convinced. Like he seems like a good guy. So
Yeah,
I mean, I think I think that analysis is pretty close. To probably what will happen.
but we don't know if he's even really calling the shots over there anymore, right? So who knows? Who knows what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. And they're getting sued by the government now, so who knows what kind of like deals they might have to cut there to stay alive.
Right.
So
But ultimately, it would seem that there would ultimately be kind of a premium for Monero, right? So if it's going to be delisted from all centralized exchanges, but yet there's this strong organic demand for it for purposes of digital cash, right? Anybody who wants to go on the dark market or whatever it is, anybody who like truly needs digital cash is going to have to go and obtain it, and because of the added friction and less liquidity, I would think there'd be kind of a premium in price, just like we see with local Monero, right? There's a
Yep.
premium there versus what you see on centralized exchanges.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot to that. I mean, we have organic demand for particular use cases at a minimum, right? We have organic demand for certain use cases. So that demand, like especially in darknets, like no one's gonna be like, oh, I'll just go use Bitcoin now. Like anyone that's been using Monero isn't just gonna be like, well, it's too hard to get on like we're gonna find those people are gonna find other ways, and that demand is gonna persist. And like ultimately that's what keeps us going. Like I think that's why Monero is still here, is because we really do have organic demand and usage.
Exactly. And those other ways of getting it are just going to get easier and easier to the point where it's almost going to be indistinguishable from centralized exchanges, I think.
Yeah. And then too, like, unless you're okay, so for the people out there that need to buy 1 million at a time, 100,000, $200,000 at a time, it might be a little bit, it's going to be harder for you. But if you're just buying 1,000 here, 5,000 there, whatever, you can use local Monero without a problem. Like you can get on there and make that trade. And there's plenty of places to do that. You can get it like cash, you can get it to your bank account. Like there's still going to be ways of finding that liquidity. And oh, by the way, you could still just buy Bitcoin or buy Litecoin or whatever, and then swap that on an instant exchange somewhere. Or you could buy Ethereum and test out those atomic swaps. I would say I'd say Bitcoin, but I don't know. You got to compete with wizards now.
Transaction fees too high.
Yeah. I redid my screen sharing. Have y'all, can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
We got it.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Looks like it's there.
So, let's see. Unfortunately, I don't have too much prepared, but also nothing that exciting has happened. Why don't we start with the stock market, I guess, because that's the most exciting thing that has happened in the past week or so. Basically, stock market, NASDAQ, so tech stocks. This was the previous all-time high that was set back at the top 2021, November. And then finally, the NASDAQ has beaten that, right? It's gotten above. You couldn't say the same for Bitcoin, right? You can't say that Bitcoin is back at its all-time highs and has beaten its all-time highs. So at the moment, I mean, the NASDAQ is still outperforming Bitcoin. And this is a trend that tends to happen where it's like, if we looked at, maybe we can even pull up the chart, Dow versus stocks. It's been hard for Bitcoin to actually beat the NASDAQ except for big liquidity pumps. So, I think that's on purpose. I think that's That's not like unreasonable considering the way that price is managed. So right here, this was 2017. That was the 2017 peak. And Bitcoin is still not above its 2017 peak in terms of the NASDAQ. So like if you had bought Bitcoin at the peak in 2017, you would have basically been better off having bought the NASDAQ unless you were smart enough to sell the top here. At some point, like another big liquidity run is going to happen. And, Bitcoin's probably going to beat this other all-time high. I don't think I've done any kind of regression analysis on the Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ, but I really should. I've got scripts set up so I can just like kind of automatically do this pretty quickly. But there's just so many things to do, right? How am I going to do them all? Maybe I can just like send those scripts to other people, publish them on GitHub and let other people play with them and see what they can come up with. Okay, so anyways, yeah, the NASDAQ has gotten above its all-time highs. It's now kind of popped above. We talked about this a few weeks ago where it's like really to feel like bullish. If you really want like that bullish feel in the NASDAQ, you don't just want to hit the all-time high. You want to beat it before you maybe make some kind of pullback here. You'll notice that this channel, we had talked about this channel since really last year. Like this channel has been a year-long channel that's been relevant for us. Let's mute the liquidity for a second. That channel has been relevant for us for price for a while, kind of popped above it here. We're now above it again. And I'm probably just going to be looking at this channel in a continuous fashion here for the rest of next year as well. Yes, price will probably be above it, but I don't expect it to just parabolically go above that channel. Right now, so I've been kind of thinking something. I'm not really confident that this market pump is actually a good thing. I'm not sure that it really spells good news for the markets. Like if everything was fine and the economy was fine and there wasn't like really any major problems in the international stage and the dollar was good and strong and the US was strong and the bonds were strong, yada, yada. What would be the need to pump the market like this? Why would you need to create this to create this situation where the market is just pumping back to new all-time highs? Is it because inflation is so bad, like people like they need to manage people's expectations so that people don't feel like they're like going broke with inflation? Are they trying to outcompete gold? So gold is currently pushing up against its all-time highs. A story that I guess I hadn't heard of, probably because it wasn't reported anywhere. China had 4 banks with the LBMA, which is the London Bullion Market Association. The LBMA was allegedly created to sort of overcome the manipulation of I can't remember. There was like another major like international gold exchange or market. Anyways, so China had 4 banks that had joined the LBMA in like 2015, 2016. And those 4 banks quietly withdrew completely from the LBMA. They're not on their list anymore. At least that's what's being reported quietly by a few different sources. But it was completely unreported by the LBMA or by mainstream media at all. So Shanghai and I believe Beijing, but maybe it's just Shanghai, they have their own gold, like international gold exchange now. This is one of the ways they're facilitating their own cross-border payments and gold settlements with Russia for oil and other different countries. And I believe recently, as of the past month or so, the first gold settlement was accomplished by China, for some kind of trade balance. So, it does seem like there might be something to this story that the world is de-dollarizing. I think it's more like a slow motion train wreck, or at least it has been for the past, let's just say, few years, maybe let's just say 3, 5, 6 years, something like that. Banks still use U.S. dollars in their central banks as reserves, but they are definitely, especially the big countries like China, Russia, they do seem to be trying to do trade in things apart from the dollar, but that transition is slow. My guess is they don't want to massively disrupt the economy because the international economy is so integrated. Like China sells so much of their stuff to the United States. They don't want to just crash the United States and crash the demand, crash the dollar, because then they lose a trading partner and they lose a lot of revenue. So it does seem to make sense to me that we are seeing a transition here away from the dollar, but it's slow. I think it's a lot slower than people would probably prefer. So anyways, that's a little bit of a side rant about gold. Next year, I do think gold has reasonably good chances to perform well. I'm a broken record on that one, I guess. I've been saying that since last year. But okay, all right. Gold kind of finished last year down here, and it's done good for gold. The point of gold is to be stable, to be money, and you don't really want your money to be heavily volatile and like oscillating massively. So, but also you want your money to have a fair and honest price, which I don't think gold does. So, when that happens, you get this volatility occasionally where it's going to just pump to the upside. So, the way this chart structure looks, you would think, oh, well, you could go the entire year of 2024 just kind of oscillating in this range here. And maybe, right? Maybe. But given this wick that happened above here, set a new all-time high, given that we've had now multiple weekly closes, in fact, we could take a look at the monthly here. Gold is now about to close this month, so last month and this month above, or at least at the previous all-time highs. So I guess this is actually the monthly close here because the market closed yesterday. So yeah, I mean, obviously this is a bullish chart, right? You look at this, you definitely would conclude this is a bullish chart. Maybe we could take a look at the yearly because it's the end of the year. So yeah, I mean, looking good on the annual chart, right? We're closing another year higher than gold has ever closed before. Last previous annual close was 2020. So yeah, that's kind of a little rant there on gold for you for the new year. Let's go ahead and take a look at bonds, because some weird things are happening with bonds. We've seen this drop off here. So this means that bond prices are increasing, right? The yields are dropping, which means that the value of older bonds is now worth more, right? The bonds bought here have a higher value than bonds issued here. So we're seeing this thing again where the federal funds rate, we are now seeing the short-term yield. I think that's the 3-month. Nope, sorry, 6-month. We're now seeing the 6-month yield just ever so slightly below the federal funds rate. And remember, we talked about this. Once we see all of these yields below this federal funds rate and moving down, if we see like that curving down, that's really a warning sign, especially if the yield curve inversion does that. So there's totally a possibility that happens in 2019 and 2020 before the whole pre-planned medical nonsense. It wasn't really medical; it was really just government nonsense. They pumped the markets. Like the markets probably shouldn't have pumped. They pumped them like parabolically out of trend. And so if we continue to see the NASDAQ pumping parabolically out of trend and then these bonds doing this, we're going to have to really watch our backs for the possibility of some like big crash event that could be happening. It's not here yet, but we are seeing slowly like a slow moving train wreck happening in front of us, but potentially, like I said, I'm using a colorful language here, but maybe they figured some stuff out and they're just going to continue pumping the markets and we're not going to have a pullback. That happens, right? That happened from 2009 all the way to like 2019 or 2018. And even the 2018 was only a 20% or 15% pullback. And then things just continued to go up. Like we didn't get anything beyond 20% until March of 2020. So that's longer than a decade, right? That is an entire decade of just number go up. So I guess, maybe we'll just have to see if the signs turn that direction. We'll keep you updated here weekly on the price report, hopefully in enough time for people to take evasive actions. Let's take a look at Monero. So yeah, I don't think this is fair. We had this like big red candle, probably. I mean, who knows? Probably, maybe this is partially related to the news of a Binance delisting. And again, probably maybe that's just the cabal like trying to make the candle seem what the news is saying, right? Although I think the news came out on Thursday. Was it Thursday or Wednesday? I don't remember. So we didn't get an immediate drawdown on that. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely broke down below that support line there, but Monero tends to break down support lines and then come right back. So I wouldn't be too worried about that crash. Or, I mean, I say crash. What is that? Like that's it's almost nothing. That would be 9%. Yeah, so that's nothing. Okay, go to Monero versus Bitcoin. Yeah, we also kind of broke down what was a slightly support line here as well versus Bitcoin. I guess, I mean, we're basically looking at those same stinking prices that we were at relative to Bitcoin in at the height of the hype and the bull market and the leverage and the fraud and all that. So I do wonder to myself, like, is this a sign that these prices we're seeing in crypto aren't real again? Are we really like, should we really believe those prices? I don't know. There's the ETFs coming up. It would be just so special if the ETFs get approved here in the next week or so. and then that marks another major top, right? Maybe that marks Bitcoin at like, let's just say, I mean, 47K is the resistance point, and probably that's a very prominent area for everyone to watch, to look at. So it's hard to, like, maybe we don't get all the way there, right? Maybe there's just too much selling here for price to actually make it to this obvious sort of 47K area. We definitely are in the standard deviation band areas where, where we talk about the potential for that topping action. Let's go to the daily. The bands come out more cleanly that way. Yeah, so these long-term blue bands, these are this is the top of the standard deviation range. And again, these are just, in my mind, they're sort of like silent psychological levels that people have in aggregate that they don't really know that they have, but it's kind of like a map for seeing some of that. So, excuse me. So, yeah, I think that, we've already kind of hit like this lower band cluster right here. This is really would be another topping area. But the ETFs get approved. Maybe we can take a big shot up to the top side here for a moment. But I do wonder, like, how many people are thinking about the same deal? Well, the ETFs got approved. The things I don't hear anyone, at least on crypto Twitter, I don't hear anyone talking about that. I don't hear anyone say, "Hey, by the way, guys, remember the last time the ETFs were approved? And remember when Coinbase got listed, and that was the literal day of the top? And remember December 17th, 2017, when we got listed on the CME, and that was the literal day of the top?" I still don't hear hardly anyone talking about that. So maybe there's like,
is that like the oldest, like buy the news, sell the event type of thing, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like that Bitcoin is like the perfect example of that. I guess crypto in general, but yeah, and I still don't see anyone talking about that being suspicious, of what could happen here when the ETFs get approved. So maybe there's just plenty of juice to squeeze. I'm assuming there has to be juice to squeeze, or this pump wouldn't have happened. So
it would also be that, right? The large holders, like the Michael Saylors of the world or whatever, wouldn't this be a time when they'd be looking to potentially, sell a lot of their Bitcoin, right? As they try to sell it into a pump.
Boy, that would be interesting if Saylor sold. I don't think he might be able to, like, in the background sort of covertly take shorts against Bitcoin to protect his stack. And he's probably big enough and smart enough to have done that. Like in terms of MicroStrategy and macro strategy, I think there's this other company. Yeah, like I don't think he would actually unload Bitcoin itself. He wouldn't unload those bags. That would be too traumatic for the markets. But he might have taken a short against that stack to protect it. Oh, another thing that happened of interest: Mt. Gox finally made some payments. But
Oh yeah, you've been talking about that forever. So that finally happened.
yeah. Well, it's, man, they seem to find every way possible to delay. This time, they made payments to people's PayPal accounts, but they made double payments. And so now everyone has to send those funds back, but not everyone's going to send those funds back. So some people already withdrew the funds and
How did
deposited
they
to their bank
fuck
and
that
spent
up?
it.
They sent everybody double payments.
Yeah, I don't think they sent everybody, but they sent a lot of people double payments. So now, what are they going to have to do, right? Oh, well, we messed up. Oh, sorry. Well, I guess we need an extension to sort this all out. Blah blah. It's just like, you can't convince me at this moment that that wasn't intentional. They did something in the background to fuck that up so that they could delay the payments again. Now you could probably just say it's a Japanese lawyer that's like, yeah, I want to keep stretching this out and getting my paycheck and my legal office and team, and we're all getting a fat salary here on the basis of the Gox coin until they're finally paid. And it's actually like, this is apparently something that happens pretty commonly with trustees that are supposed to be distributing assets like this. So
Would you say sent double payments? I was listening to the recorded stream audio. I didn't hear who it was.
Gox, Mount Gox, the Gox
Oh
trustee.
yeah, that's yep.
So yeah, I mean, now it's like, well, they're gonna have to freeze all the payments, and like, well, what do we do about the people that won't send the money back? And we can claw it back from PayPal. Clawback is a legal term, but it's not the right term there. But you know what I mean. We can claw it back from PayPal, but then that's bureaucracy and paperwork, and I mean, it's just how on earth could they have screwed this up after having like literally two years to plan it out? And that's been their whole thing. Oh, we want to make sure it's done right. We
I
need
mean,
to
their whole MO is just screwing things up, right? That's what they're known for.
Yeah.
They were just meant to be a magical right? When did they start as a trading company for like those like magic cards or whatever they are? Wasn't that?
Yeah. Yeah, they were like a game. I don't know, some kind of game end game asset trading or
They just added Bitcoin and
yeah.
got in way over their head.
Yep.
Whatever
then
happened to
so
Karpelis? Is he still around? Is he still saying stuff? Is he on Twitter?
Yeah, he's so a year ago he said, maybe it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago actually. Jesus. 2 years ago he was like, well, we think the payments might start in September of 2022. He occasionally makes some comments. I think he's still apprised of things in a way that's slightly insider. But I mean, he went to jail, right? He went to jail for 4 years. So I guess went to prison then. Supposedly he got pretty buff in prison, didn't have anything else to do.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And
Yeah,
then he
Mt.
got
Gox
out.
was a Magic the Gathering online trading site, and that's what it stands for. Mt. Gox, MT Gox, Magic the Gathering Online Exchange.
Oh.
And it was basically a third-party exchange for people to trade those cards.
Right. Before Bitcoin even existed.
Yeah, we
Imagine
were
being one of
2006.
those people on there that was just trading magical. What is it called? Magical. Are
The
those
game
things
is Magic the Gathering Online.
Magic the Gathering? I mean, imagine just being one of those people and then just kind of falling into Bitcoin from there, because that was kind of your way into Bitcoin. That's incredible.
Magic cards, magic internet money.
Right.
Natural fit. But yeah, the Gox trustee now is a Japanese lawyer that's handling. They're supposed to be handling the assets of Gox, the remaining assets, to distribute them to the victims. So it's definitely not even the original Gox people at all. It's just a totally different organization, and it's still screwed up. So
what's the number? Approximately? It's
140,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. But yeah,
wild.
they tried to make the fiat payments. That's what the PayPal thing was all about. I'm pretty sure it was just the fiat payments. And then they screwed the very first thing they tried to do. They screwed up. So I don't think it was an accident.
Right, I forgot. And then you have all that Bitcoin Cash there too. Which, yeah, you were theorizing that maybe some percentage of that moves into Monero, right? Especially the Bitcoin Cash people, right? There's overlap there between, right? Because those are old schoolers. Go ahead. Yeah,
I was theorizing that Bitcoin that a lot of the Bitcoin would move into Monero, because the Bitcoin Cash doesn't represent a significant amount of volume of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if we just take the relative market cap, let's just say 0.5%. If 0.5% of 141,000 Bitcoin move into Monero, that's about 70,000 Monero. Or wait, I think I have that wrong. That would be 300,000 Monero. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. 1% at 14,000. You know what? I'm not going to try and do public math here. I didn't get much sleep last night.
100. Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, it represents a significant amount of money that could move into Monero, and especially in a low liquidity situation, could definitely move the price.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what's going on with Gox there. I guess we don't really have too much else to talk about here. If you guys wanted to cover anything in particular, this is Bitcoin dominance. So it looks like it's broken down. It's rising wedge here. This is good. Screw Bitcoin. There are solutions they could take. They could talk to some Monero people and be like, yeah, you know what? Why don't we limit SegWit? First of all, why don't we just reduce the size of SegWit from 3 freaking megabytes to 2, and then tack that other megabyte onto base transaction data? Why don't we limit the number of outputs? Or if you need to use, say, 100 outputs, you're going to have to pay a premium on those. Why don't we make it so that if you use more than the base, so you got your base transaction data, which doesn't include the signature, and then about 60% of that base transaction data is going to be needed for the witness data as a signature. So in most transactions, in most monetary based transactions, you don't need more than the base transaction data. So the base transaction is let's just say 150 bytes. So then you need something like 100 bytes of signature data. I mean, these are rough numbers depending on which of the many protocols in Bitcoin you're using, but you don't need to use more than 100% of that base transaction data in witness. So why don't they make a graduated pricing structure so that the more data you use in witness, the higher you get charged for it? There's so many things they could do to make this problem less bad, but for some reason, it seems like all the people associated with Blockstream and small blocks are so focused on how nothing can be done and you can't stop it. And none of those people that push the small block narrative that were associated with Blockstream at some point in the past that made this whole thing happen, that are responsible for Segwit and Taproot, by the way. None of them are saying, yeah, maybe we should reconsider the price points, stuff like that. None of them have said anything in the kinds of like mitigation strategies that Monero took. Why not? Like it just pisses me off. Like I still, like, as much as I talk shit about Bitcoin, I still would like to have seen it like fixed enough for it to be used, because we need a digital freedom money. And we're going to need multiple chains. If we maxed out Monero's capacity while remaining decentralized, like we're still going to need other chains. So I don't know. It's a freaking rant. Anyway, so I don't care if Bitcoin's dominance is dropping. Good. Go ahead, man.
No, I love it. Keep going.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. We said, hey, I don't really have a strong opinion on what happens with this chart, but we are kind of in the moment where, people are optimistic. So then shitcoins like to pop off when, when people think Bitcoin is going to be doing good and is in a bull market, et cetera. So right now, I think the presumption is largely Bitcoin's in a bull market.
All right. I'm just sitting here thinking, how exciting is this though? Right? Like we're entering 2024. This is like max entertainment. Monero is being completely delisted from all centralized exchanges. I don't know. It makes me smile. I think it's
as people post JPEGs on Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's I never thought things would play out to like literally this degree with regards to Monero and Bitcoin. Like Monero is really proving itself to be the best form of digital cash. They're delisting it. They're literally just going after Monero and Monero only.
I mean, that's hilarious. Like how much of a plug that is. It's like, yeah, y'all are so scared that you'll have to delist it.
Right. Crazy.
But it's all privacy coins.
Yeah.
Oh,
especially Dash. We don't want people accessing Dash.
Anyone that calls themselves a privacy coin, regardless of whether you are or not, it's like, even if you just like the idea of supporting privacy is wrong thinking, we'll delist you.
Yeah, I think it's funny to see like the Zcash people like jumping on this, like how they're being attacked. Meanwhile, Zcash has gone out of their like literally has made design decisions based on trying to interface with centralized exchanges. Right?
Yep.
I mean, Monero is really the only crypto that has purposely gone out of its way to not interface with centralized exchanges and not being able to apply KYC AML on the coin in any way.
Well, Zcash needs the exchanges. How else are they going to sell? How else is Zuku going to buy stake with his 20% dev tax? But one thing I learned about Bitcoin recently too is
Zuko off. I like Zuko. I've been trying to get Zuko on this show forever. He got all pissed at me for
blocked you, right?
Yeah, he basically was pissed at me. I was like surprised what it ended up being about. It was when we had Vic, I think, on here, and we were talking about whether or not Zcash should be added to Cake Wallet. And obviously, I guess I was opposed at the time, and he took it personally the way I was like describing Zcash.
I
don't know.
I've heard a lot of drama about Zcash and Cake Wallet.
Yeah.
I know the whole story.
I mean, what do you guys think about that? I don't even think I was all that opposed. That's why I couldn't believe he was so pissed at me. I forget, like, or maybe I don't even
he's
remember.
A big blocker, man. He blocks everybody.
Yeah. And so now he's not really part of, like, has he moved on from Zcash or something? Is he like not really?
Oh, I would need to like find a way to follow him because I'm blocked.
Yeah, is he not developing on it anymore? I don't know. I haven't.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd need to check that out.
Follow that.
Use Knitter, and then you can view his profile.
Yeah. That's actually every time I see like this, you can't see this tweet. I just go.
He's kind of been quote unquote dethroned as the CEO of Zcash and somebody else, right? I think I haven't been following closely, but I think there's been internal conflict there. Like people didn't like some of the decisions he was making.
Interesting.
I could be about that. I'm sure there's people.
I mean, that might be some fun drama to get involved in, for a moment. But, one thing that happened with that I realized with Bitcoin. So these BRC20s, they're like ERC20s, but for Bitcoin, apparently they issue them as like mass UTXOs. It's like they'll do a transaction and then just like pollute the UTXO set with shitloads of these BRC20 tokens.
So
And then-
$20 fees isn't enough, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it depends on the day. Tried to send a Bitcoin transaction a couple of days ago, and it's just like, God dang it. But and then all the same people, all the same like maxi tards are like, oh, they're polluting the UTXO set. No shit, they are. So put a cap on the number of outputs you can have and force them to do. If they want to put 1,000 outputs, well, guess what? Now they have to do 100 transactions. Suddenly, those economic price points might not make so much sense anymore. But they're like, oh, we can't do anything. It's like, well, you know what? Y'all fostered that ecosystem that says you can't change Bitcoin at all because it's already so perfect and the best money in the history of the galaxy, both past, present, and future. It's like, now you can't actually fix anything. You shit in your own bed, now sleep in it. Like, clap, good job, guys. I don't know, maybe I'm just like, I'm cranky because I didn't get enough sleep last night trying to fix my damn computer.
Body's done. He's done with it.
Technology is not being. You're all
I
pissed.
love the Wizards, man. They're just epic troll. Now they love Bitcoin so much, and they're using all of the same arguments against the maximalists. And it's like, you know what? Maybe if Bitcoin diminishes eventually here, maybe some other better coin could fill that vacuum. A real digital cypherpunk money.
Hell yeah.
I think we all know what we're talking about here.
I do want to ask you are you going to stick around? Or
yeah, I'll have you guys. I'll be listening.
All right, because I want to ask you straight up your predictions for 2024 to put a number on it. I know you probably don't want to, but it'll be fun. Like what you're predicting the high could be, the low. But we could do that all together.
Okay, yeah.
Yours.
Good. That gives me some time to formulate my whatever wrong predictions I'll be making.
All right, buddy.
Cool.
Anything else you want to bring up?
No. I mean, I could talk forever about price. There's like other stuff we could look at, but Ethereum BTC is still holding in this like big ass triangle here. I still, we'll wait. We'll wait till we get to the predictions point.
Yeah. All right. Let's do that.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, buddy.
Happy New Year's.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
man.
always, buddy.
Thank you for everything you did for us this year too, man. Big thank you to Body.
Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate you giving me an opportunity and a place to share my thoughts.
Of course, man.